Flat out, Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals were magic yesterday against the Jets to move to 6-4. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AC Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Sports radio in Phoenix since 2011. This is my 8th year hosting this podcast. And I told you, everydayers, I told you before the season started, this was going to be the most exciting season that I've experienced in my 13 years talking sports in Phoenix. A lot of it was because there's unknown, but excitement about the unknown instead of fear. There were expectations that this offense was going to flourish. And there were question marks about the defense, and you're questioning what Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis are going to do. And what we've seen through 10 weeks is, sweet mother, this team is exciting. Nailed it. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Cardinals win 31-6. We can talk about the stats. We can talk about, the pressure that the defense got on Aaron Rodgers. We can talk about the free fall of the New York Jets organization. We can talk about the ascension of the Arizona Cardinals 2.0. It starts and ends with Kyler Murray. I'm going to revisit the can't-do list from this past Friday. Did the Cardinals check all the boxes, the things they couldn't do? Did they circumvent those in their 31-6 win? The defense is absolutely playing bona fide out of their bleeping minds. Second segment. It starts and ends with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray has matured to a level that you only could hope would be the peak after he tore his ACL. Let's jump back. Tears his ACL, okay? And you don't really know what that means for 2023. Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim had just gotten an extension. The Cardinals were in free fall. And what does it mean? Are they bringing Cliffy Baby back? Are they bringing Steve Keim back? Is Kyler Murray going to be out the entire 2023 season? Are they going to trade Kyler Murray for a high draft pick and draft a quarterback? All we've seen from Kyler Murray since, it's like he was the hero of a movie. He turned from the anti-hero to the hero. And I'm not saying he's a hero. I'm not saying he's an MVP, but just go with me here. He's in the lab, rehabbing. And the switch for me, and I've alluded to this from time to time, and this is the antithesis of what normally people say about football players and athletes in general, celebrities, whatever, on social media. When Kyler Murray infused social media into his persona, and into his brand, things started changing. And I'm not saying that social media was the catalyst for it. I'm saying that we finally were able not to see Kyler Murray as a mystery. We were able to see Kyler Murray as a human being. He got a lot of crap for playing video games. I was always in the camp that, hey, stay home, play all the video games you want. As long as you're not out, clubbing until 5 a.m. on Saturday night before game day. Who gives a rip? Who cares? People who are quiet and reserved are sometimes looked at as not intelligent. It's the weirdest anomaly. It doesn't make any sense. It has no rational thought process behind it, but people think that. I don't get it. So, rehab, social media, Jonathan Gannon, Monty Ossenford. We came here because of Kyler. Not very often is there a franchise quarterback on the roster that is going through a rebuild. Jonathan Gannon, paraphrasing, introductory press conference. Around the team, rehabbing, coming back to a much more stable situation And they're 9-9 since he came back the middle of last year. And it's not perfect. Okay. This is still a work in progress. This was supposed to be another kind of ho-hum year. Their over-under in most books was 6.5. They're right there through 10 weeks. And then now, springboarding from last year, where it was kind of, the games were not playoff contention games. They had a couple big wins. One was against Philly. It was more of a take home and hug yourself kind of win for Jonathan Gannon and the team. Like, look at what the Cardinals' capabilities are against a team that is jam-packed with talent, star-studded, and made a Super Bowl 2 years ago. Or I guess last year at the time that the Cardinals played them last year. Springboarding that to now. He hasn't been perfect, but when he's been good, he's been great. When he's been good, he's been incredible. When he's been good, he's been MVP caliber. And adding in Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't make things easier just like that. Just because you put an elite player on a run for something, it's like, well, it's kind of oily and watery. What's the balance here? And heaven forbid it take them more than 3 or 4 games to get on the same page. And then lo and behold, oh, look, things are working now. Unbelievable. So yesterday, as we did that chronology of Kyler Murray over the last 20 months, whatever it is, 18 months, that was his opus. And it's not, and I'm not talking about this as like, oh, it's the Jets. Oh, they beat Aaron Rodgers. No. It's week 10 in a season that now there are shifted expectations as they go into their bye week. We'll discuss that later. Yesterday was a microcosm of the finish line from where he started to what everybody hoped he would get to. And a lot of that has to, a majority of that, aside from him busting his ass to get here, coaching, trust, offensive line, run game. But overall, you can tell he sees it now. Took him a little bit longer than people want to expect, but the game is so slow for him now. And that is a direct correlative to the offensive line. Kyler Murray wasn't given the opportunity to always be standing in the pocket because the offensive line hasn't been great. This offensive line, and I'm not saying borderline, I'm not saying one of the, I'm not going to say what you think I'm going to say. This offensive line is elite. You're grading on a curve. Look at the offensive lines that the Cardinals just faced with the Bears and the Jets. 2 teams with wild expectations going into this season. Playoffs or bust, Super Bowl. They can't protect the quarterback. Paris Johnson Jr., Evan Brown, Yalta Froholt, whoever plays right guard, whether it's Will Hernandez before he went out, Isaiah Adams, who was questionable to return, Tristan Colon has been great, and then Kelvin Beachum, the old warrior on the right side, elite. They have been elite. And that gives Kyler Murray the opportunity to show his full and total potential and performance. And we saw it. He's playing Madden on easy. And these are tough matchups. The Bears and Jets defenses aren't walkovers. This is a different level of Kyler Murray that we've never seen before. I don't care what happened in 2021. That had a shelf life, and I don't know why I was one of the only few to see it early on. This is sustainable. This is young players playing meaningful positions, playing meaningful snaps, and borderline thriving at most positions. The pass rush still isn't where you want it to be, but I'm going to talk about in the next segment. I mean, Xavier Thomas, 3 sacks this year. Not bad for a 5th-round flyer on a kid from Clemson who he only dropped because he had injury issues. Latu retired due to a neck injury. He went top 15. So the fact that the Cardinals got him where they did, and I'm not comparing the two because Latu had a wildly productive last year at UCLA. The offense is now a real offense And the best part about this is they fixed the issue. And I think a lot of it early on was not knowing the target dispersion. Marvin Harrison Jr. got to get him involved. Trey McBride was a pseudo ghost early on, and now he's T1. I think he's still a top 3 tight end in the league already. But the offensive line has really meshed. And what you're going to see now, and again, they're not the best offense in the NFL. They're not, Super Bowl or bust. We're seeing a growth and maturity from the offense. Where they're at the point now where they're saying, without saying, to opposing defenses, pick the run or pass. Which you want to stop? We'll eat you with the other. And that is a very scary for others and wildly exciting for us, media members, fans like you alike. This is the next iteration of this offense. It didn't take till next year. Only took 10 weeks. And buckle up. It's going to be fun for the rest of the year. The defense is playing out of their bleeping minds. They get a segment. Next, Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends at 5 Hour Energy. Listen, man, there's so many different great times to take a 5 Hour Energy. Just quick shot. It's a beautiful thing. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby. It's a way of life. And it takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime, which is why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans like you. The fans who are first in the parking lot and who are last to leave. We see you. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help you fueled, to keep you fueled, throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with the 5 Hour Energy. Available at 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. So, I love Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy made easy. Over 10 million users, billions of dollars awarded. It makes it so easy to put some cheese down. All you have to do is pick more or less than the projected stats of 2 to 6 players, and you can win up to 10 times or 100 times your money. Deposits are easy. You can do NFL, NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball when it comes around, in a few months. Like, they've got you covered for all of it. And the best part for me, say you do cash in one of your entries, withdrawals can take as little as 15 minutes to get to your bank account. It's like that. Download the app. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you place your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Ooh. The stats are there. Kyler, over 260 passing yards, touchdown, 2 on the ground. It's interesting. Like, the one play that made me jump out of my shorts, proverbially, was the play action naked boot from the 2. It's like, oh, you're giving the ball to James Conner, touchdown. Like, they must have set that up for weeks until the perfect time. It's like, hey, you want to toy with them? Hey, Kyler, go take a little stroll down on that far pylon over there. Touchdown. And then the 12-yard touchdown run later in the game, I think it was in the third. It was the last touchdown of the game. You thought he was going out of bounds. And a little dipsy doodle, tiptoe, touchdown. Like, he makes it look so easy. The passing touchdown to Marvin Harrison Jr. drop in the bucket. Him and Trey McBride are just an extension of each other at this point. And all testament to the offensive line. I've got a former Arizona Cardinal offensive lineman joining me tomorrow. I'll discuss that in the final segment. That's going to be exciting. The defense is playing absolutely out of their minds. Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis have these guys ready. So credit where credit is due first. Garrett Williams, Max Melton, Budda Baker, Dadrion Taylor-Demerson. Jalen Thompson was inactive. He may be getting Wally pipped at this point. Budda Baker, and I'll wait. Who's the one that said the Cardinals need to re-sign James Conner and Budda Baker? Like last year? I'll wait. Was it me? It was me. Budda Baker is playing the best football we've seen maybe ever. And why is that? It's because he can play just his position. He doesn't have to overcome all the holes on defense that he's had to do for the majority of his career. They haven't had a bona fide cornerback one since Budda Baker was drafted. Patrick Peterson was past his prime at that point. Think about that. They haven't had a bona fide CB1 since drafting him. And now Dadrion Taylor-Demerson, he hits really hard. And Garrett Williams is a CB1, and Max Melton gave up less than 50 yards receiving yesterday against, mind you, Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson. Max Melton got juked out of his shorts by Garrett Wilson one time. Not an original story. It was for what, a 12 or 14-yard gain. It wasn't crazy. They've got their secondary. And you got to see. I mean, Max Melton he's a rookie. Garrett Williams played some games last year. Garrett Williams was also probably a late first-round pick if he didn't get hurt. I say that a lot. The fact that the Cardinals got him in the third round is insane. And you know what's making their job easier? This pass rush is waking up. Baron Browning had a pressure for the strip sack. So Baron Browning pressure, Xavier Thomas strip sack, recovery by the Cardinals when the Jets were in the red zone later in the game. Zaven Collins has woken up. He got injured, came back. It's like they're violent. I say with a big smile. Friday's show was all about bringing aggression. And they did. And it's not like they have to get up to do it. That's just what their code is. That's what their DNA is. Because you're White and Mac Wilson are terrors in the middle of the field. You're looking at this defense, and this is the first time in a long time, 20 years, 15, that every member of the secondary and every backer loves to just punish people. Patrick Peterson wasn't a tackler. He was a push out of bouncer. Oh, shut off half the field. Cool. This team is full of absolute demons. That's what Kyler Murray called, I can't remember. I think it was A.J. Brown. I think it was A.J. Brown when they signed him. Yeah. That's one thing. That's the biggest compliment Kyler Murray can give somebody. That's what this defense is. And Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis are just what the kids say, in their bag. With that, is it sustainable? I mean, that's the question, because that was the biggest question mark going into this season. We'll talk a lot more about this. There's no notes from yesterday. There's no notes. And that is, oof, it feels good. Going into the bye week, momentum is a mile high, and you look at exactly what we witnessed yesterday on the defensive side of the ball. And yesterday was the first time, and I don't think that this is too prudent. I don't think I've waited too long. I think you need more confirmation that it's the rule and not the exception. Yesterday was the first time after watching a Cardinals game this year where I was like, you can trust the defense. The one thing, I mean, the Bears and the Jets offensive lines aren't great, and you kind of take that back to the Rams game in week 2 when the Cardinals blew them out, I think 41-10. The Cardinals defense is made up of NFL players. Did you know that? And what average NFL players do, let alone above average. What average NFL players do is they eviscerate weakness. It doesn't matter. That's why they're NFL players. They're elite. And what the Cardinals have done the last 120 minutes of football is they've completely obliterated bad offensive lines like they're supposed to, like they did against the Rams when everybody was hurt. The Kyler Murray show, everybody just took it to him because that's what healthy, average Cardinals or NFL teams do to teams who are ravaged by injury. And what we saw from the defense yesterday was absolute domination. They haven't given up a touchdown in the last 3 games at home. That's bonkers. Yesterday was the first time this year I'm like, I trust the defense. Is it sustainable? That's the question. That's a question for another day. The can't-do list. Revisited. I'll do that next. Locked On Cardinals. Your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by a new family member of ours, Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently delivered the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code NFL and a $30 rewards card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. Minimum purchase may apply. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check your latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You don't have to open any, Google tabs or anything like that. It's all in the app. Super easy. And visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right. Cardinals win 31-6. Justin Pugh is going to join me tomorrow. Super excited to break down the offensive line play, kind of talk about the transformation. The moratorium on Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim was still on. Okay. This is not, they are no longer part of the plot, so they are no longer needed to be discussed. And when I mentioned Cliff Kingsbury on Twitter as pertaining to Kyler Murray, I'm talking about him as a head coach. He's been a fine offensive coordinator so far in Washington, for sure. But when you're a play caller and you have to run a team, if Cliff Kingsbury were just the offensive coordinator for the Cardinals, he may still be here. But being a head coach, he wasn't cut out for it. But the moratorium is still on. They have no acting role in this plot anymore. But Justin Pugh, super excited to get him on. Good dude, smart guy. And his insight is going to be invaluable. The can't-do list. 1, give up the big play. They didn't. 2, rush Aaron Rodgers. They did. Segment over. This defense is legit. And it was built through the draft. And very, very team-friendly, quote-unquote, minimal signings with massive impact in Kazir White and Mac Wilson in succession in 2023 and 2024. Successive off seasons. Successive? I don't know. It's been like Monty didn't miss. I was most excited, like the mid-round quote-unquote flyer picks, which are only flyers if you don't know how to draft. I was extremely excited about Xavier Thomas. Big dude, great bend. Trevor Sikkema, my buddy from Pro Football Focus, lead draft analyst, not just my buddy. I mean, he's a borderline titan in this industry now. Love the Xavier Thomas pick. It's just kind of working. And is it sustainable? That's the question, as I mentioned. But They're not getting lucky in these games. They're not, turning the ball over. Like, yeah, there was a strip sack at the end of the game, but it was already out of reach. Like, they're just playing good defense. Third down, they got off the field yesterday, which was a fantastic maturity thing. I mean, the Jets were still 6 of 13, but they only had 17 first downs. The Cardinals had 28 first downs on 57 plays. It's about 50%. 50% of the plays they ran yesterday were first downs. So when you look at the can't do list, the Cardinals couldn't do no wrong yesterday. And on Wednesday, because this is the bye week, on Wednesday I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I'm going to do a Monty Austin-Ford show. All of the draft picks, we're going to put into perspective what's happened over the last 18 months. We're going to put into perspective what this organization is compared to 18 months ago. And we're going to put into perspective how much of a future pacing position the Arizona Cardinals are in with almost $120 million to spend next year and all of their draft picks. Aside from a late round pick that they traded Baron Browning for. The Arizona Cardinals, I can confidently say, are in the best position they've been in the last 20 years. Maybe not the best roster 1 to 53 currently, but with the most ammo and the most talent that currently on their roster sandwiched into one family. And what we saw yesterday, I'll leave you with this, because I was going to do a full segment on Budda Baker and James Conner. It's more yesterday about Dadrion Taylor-Demerson and Trey Benson. The game is 100% slowed down for Trey Benson. And he's able to get his juices flowing. I talked about this on Friday. This is kind of a motif that I pepper in from time to time. Starters, their entire life, Pop Warner through college, get to the NFL, and they're a second, a backup running back who's cold on the sideline for 40 minutes of game time, which is 2 hours, and he goes in for a random series. No, you got to get the dude rolling early. And they did. They had him in the first quarter in the series, they had him in the second quarter in the series, and the majority of the second half until they had Amari DiMercato come in. And then DJ Dallas was in the last series. And then Dadrion Taylor-Demerson is ready to rock. He's ready on arrival. What I wonder is what kind of packages they're going to be able to put together where you have potentially Jalen Thompson, Dadrion Taylor-Demerson, and Budda Baker on the field at the same time. If anybody can do it, it's Nick Rallis, Jonathan Gannon's, mad scientist brains put together. Yesterday was about the future, not only for 2024, but for the majority of draft picks that Monty Austin has drafted over the last two drafts. Cardinals 6-4, bye week, rest up, Seattle in 2 weeks. But for now, enjoy the hell out of this. Justin Pugh joins me tomorrow. Locked on Cardinals. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.